Hello everyone, welcome to What If Issei was the leader of the new Jedi Order movie. Before we start, please go support God of Hope for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made. There will be some mistaken characters' gender, but of course Issei is a male. Issei has lived through many adventures from duels to a war, but the worst was the betrayal of those he swore to protect and the death of the Guardians of Peace in the galaxy. Now he's trying to live in hiding, but until when? Since the power of the Force is in his hands. Trying to live in peace. He who seeks to control his destiny will never find peace. This story begins in a city surrounded by valleys and mountains. A city where a brown-haired boy resides who had a uniform from his respective school that he was going to attend today. Upon arrival he greets many people who return the greeting. And with that he starts waiting for classes. When lunchtime comes, the same chestnut tree sits in the shade of a tree, enjoying the cold of winter in mid-January. He was going to eat his bento, but someone interrupted him. Hayato-kun. He looked at who it was. Murayama-san, to what do I owe your unexpected visit? I speak politely. I came to know if you have considered my offer to join the kendo club. With your ability we could get past the regionals and reach the nationals. What do you say, Hayato-kun? I'm flattered by the offer, but I'll have to reject it again. I swore to never pick up a sword again in my life. I hope you understand. I understand. She approached him, sitting next to him, and without warning, she discreetly moved one of her hands to his thigh near his crotch. But if you would just join me, you would make my friends very happy, and me, she said in a flirtatious and seductive way, bringing her face closer to the brown-haired boy's. But he just moved a little, took her hands and looked at her kindly. Please Murayama-san, have more respect for yourself. And with that he took his bento and left, leaving the brunette with pigtails alone, watching him leave with a pout. No matter how much you resist, Hayato-kun, in the end you will be mine and only mine. But all this was observed by someone in a window of an old building. That person had hair all like blood and his eyes were blue like the ocean. She leaned on the window frame and looked at the chestnut tree with longing while her hand touched the wood gently. Issei, Hayato, why do you make me suffer like this? As the afternoon came, the brown-haired boy retired to his house, quietly humming a song that he liked to hear on his phone, but he passed by a park in which on one corner there was a boy who was dressed suspiciously. The boy looked at him and smiled, then approached him. Hey kid, have you heard of fentanyl? I have plenty of it here. I can give you a free sample if you want, but I assure you that this will make you feel on cloud 9. You don't want to sell fentanyl, he said while raising his hand in front of the seller. I don't want to sell fentanyl, he said with clouded vision as if he were in a trance. You will go home and change your life. I'm going to go home and change my life, he said, and then left, but not before throwing all the fentanyl he had on his clothes into the trash, as well as the profits he obtained. As soon as Issei left, he took the money from the trash and left, then stopped at an orphanage where, upon seeing the children, he gave him the money and a smile and then left. When he got home he left his bookcase on the floor and went to his room and then to his bed. To meditate. Everything in him was peace until memories came to his mind. Memories of your past. Commander, we have to abort the mission. You are very rebellious, Hayato. Come with me, Ice, the Order is paranoid. Forget those wishes of love, young Padawan. You are just like me, Issei, join me and together we will rule the galaxy. Execute Order 66. These memories cause objects around him to rise into the air, shaking erratically. But a memory came to his mind. One you will never forget. I hate you. Teacher. He abruptly came out of his meditation and without even being able to control his feelings, tears of sadness and pain came from his eyes. Pain for having lost many of his friends as well as someone very important in his life. Master Anakin, forgive me. The chestnut tree, still with tears and sadness, slept remembering that person. Remembering that horrible day when his world changed. In which darkness won. The unexpected arrives. Sometimes the things we expect never come, it's the unexpected that changes your life. It dawned. Issei got up early to train and meditate more. He didn't know that he was being watched by a bat creature. Through the eyes of that creature someone was watching all the actions of the chestnut tree. That person was Rias Gremory, who had a loving smile along with a tender blush on her cheeks and a hand on her chest at the height of her heart. Issei. She had known the brunette for a year and that was when a fan of hers wanted to try her luck with her, but it went wrong when she rejected him. The ex-GD came to his aid using the power of the Force to calm the situation. She came to admire him not only for the gift he had, but because the same brown-haired boy treated her not as an unattainable girl, as everyone usually makes her see, but as an ordinary girl, being a complete gentleman with her. And since then he has been spying on him to find out more about him, knowing of his ability to manipulate weak minds and move objects with his mind, but what surprised him the most was seeing him use a type of weapon with a blade of pure blue light. I watched as he moved with the elegance and precision of a swordsman. But what puzzled him the most was how Issei himself usually looks at the hilt with sadness and pain. Pain that she wanted to know its origin since she hates seeing it like that. But above all, she fell in love with him more and more that year as she observed him. She fell in love wanting to know more about him, his past, his goals, everything about him. She wanted to be by her knight's side. She wanted to be his and only his just as he would be hers. Issei, my beloved Issei. At school everything was routine for him, learning things about his home planet that he didn't know like history, plus other classes like math and science were something he knew by heart. He was going to his usual place to enjoy his lunch, but he saw something that bothered him. It was those guys again looking at the wall of the kendo club. Issei didn't understand how they resisted his manipulation of their minds when he tried to make them change their lives. The mysteries of strength. And upon hearing more lewd comments, he just used force to move the wood so that the girls from the club would notice. These tried to run, I said tried because they tripped over a board that curiously wasn't there. They were punished with blows, while the brown-haired boy left there with a satisfied smile on his face. When he arrived under the shade of the tree he enjoyed his lunch while feeling someone's gaze. I looked to see who it was. The same retard girl who just a year ago helped a fan who wanted to get on her nerves. He didn't understand why, but every time he looked at her there was something that invited him to talk to her. He felt that he had to be with her, that he had to protect her, that she needed him. He did not understand if it was the will of the force that his path was linked to her. But for now he had to stay away until the time was right according to the force. I just had to be patient. Rias, on the other hand, looked at him sighing for him. Watching Hyodo-kun again. It was the voice of her right hand and her most trusted friend who was looking at a chessboard with pieces on it. Himejima Akeno. Yes, Akeno, every day I feel like I'm getting closer to him, I don't know why, but I want him to come to me. Many clubs have wanted him and he hasn't joined any of them, although I don't deny it, he's cute and adorable with that imperturbable feeling. I wonder what face he'll make when he puts his face on my breasts. I asked no one in a mischievous way. You better not bother him, especially in my presence Akeno, he's mine, she said, somewhat annoyed. You should learn to share Rias. And you should learn to improve your game, checkmate. Again. I'm going to take a shower, tell Kaneko-chan to keep an eye on him, but to increase her precautions, we don't want him to be discovered again, she said as she undressed and entered a shower. But inside that shower, while she felt the water running through her body that is desired by many men, she had thoughts which she tried to sort out. And among them was the ex-Jedi. Issei. Every time he was in her mind she felt warm and strong, as if she could do anything having him by her side, not because of his ability, but because she wanted to have him at that very moment. She fell more in love with him and hoped that the brown-haired boy would accept her feelings. The sun was setting. And the chestnut tree looked over a bridge admiring the beautiful sunset. Something he liked to see on every planet he was on since he fought in the Clone Wars. He missed many of the people he met. The Master Obi-Wan. The Master Coyote. To his friend Padawan Ahsoka. To his Captain Clone Rex. To his Commander Clone Cody. The Master Yoda. The Master Windu. The Master Fisto. And the Tender Grogu. The Senator Amidala. And finally to his teacher. Master Anakin, if only I had paid more attention, it was my fault that. She stopped crying. Her tears weren't going to make everything okay. He had to live with the weight of his actions, even though Master Obi-Wan had told him it was not his fault. Oh, excuse me, are you Hyodo Issei? He came out of his thoughts when he felt the presence of someone who spoke to him. She was a girl his age with black hair and violet eyes. Seeing her, his senses went on alert as he felt unpleasant emotions from her, but one alarmed him greatly. It was one of death. Yes, it's me, I can help you, I speak in a friendly manner, prepared to fight if the situation gets out of control. I saw you passing by here, and I wanted to know if you Issei easily saw her act of being a shy and nervous girl, knowing what she was really hiding. You would like to go out with me. I could see that obvious trap from many parsecs away, and I was going to decline. But something in the force told him to accept. Perhaps it was to discover the reasons for his attempted death. Well, of course, why not? What I didn't know was that all of this was seen by a girl with white hair and yellow eyes. He looked at everything with an expression of disinterest, but inside he didn't like what he saw. Already at home, Issei himself went up to his room, and upon arriving he went directly to his closet, and removing some things he discovered something. It was his R3 astromech droid. He turned it on and sat down in front of it. Hello R3, how are you? The droid beeped and moved happily. I know you're happy that I turned you on, buddy, but there's no work on the ship, I'm sorry, I just wanted someone to talk to. He gave beeps of understanding and then advice. I don't know if it's a good idea to make friends on this planet R3, the truth is not since that day. He beeped angrily at his master. I feel like it was my fault, my friend anyway, let's change the subject, today a girl invited me on a date, but I think she wants to kill me. He gave mocking whistles. I didn't do anything, who do you think I am, you tinhead? I said to him, offended. He gave more mocking whistles. Keep going like this, and someone won't have an oil bath. Jokes aside, the droid spoke to him with sounds of concern. I know it's dangerous to fear that this person could be part of the Empire or a bounty hunter, but the Force tells me that I must see where this takes me, I just hope for the best. He continued to make beeps which indicated his support. Thanks for supporting me, R3, you are the only thing I have left apart from the ship and someone else that we keep far away from here. I wish I could keep you on, but you will get bored if I leave you alone. He gave out beeps of understanding, knowing that his master has it tough on his home planet. I hope I can find a way to recharge your damaged power cell and fix it, rest easy R3. He gave his last beep saying goodbye to his master while he turned it off. The chestnut sighed as he did not deny it. He wished he could talk to someone other than his astromech droid, but he feels he doesn't deserve such a privilege in his life. The only thing he could do was meditate and then sleep for tomorrow, without knowing that his life was going to change by the will of the Force. Things were not going well for Rias as she feared that the woman who approached her secret crush would hurt him, so she would have everything ready to execute her plan. I must be the one to save him from her so that he can join my entourage. I thought you would let him die so you could reincarnate him without any problem. Issei helped me in the past, doing what Sona advised me would be bad for me. Tell Udo-kun and Kaneko-chan to get ready, because tomorrow we will avoid a tragedy. As orders, but I want to see how nervous his face gets. He left while Rias didn't like her friend's playful tone. Well, he looked at the starry night sky thinking about many things, but his thoughts were always with that chestnut. The day had arrived and around noon Issei in civilian clothes was waiting at the agreed place for his meeting. I hoped everything would go well and I wouldn't have to use my lightsaber. Then he saw her arrive. It was Yuma, that was his fake name. Sorry for being a little late, Issei-kun, did I make you wait long? Not at all, Yuma-san, I just arrived, he said, acting like a nervous boy. All being observed from a distance by a blond boy with grey eyes in a cautious manner. The sunset has arrived. The young Jedi did not deny that it was a relief to get a little distracted from his routine and his regret-filled thoughts in his life. But I was still on alert and the day was about to end. When they arrived at the park at what is a fountain, the girl stopped to talk to him. Issei-kun, I had a lot of fun today. I'm glad to hear that, Yuma-san. But there is something I want to do to celebrate this date, do you want to hear it? Issei immediately felt a disturbance in the Force upon hearing those words. I don't think it's a good idea, Yuma-san, I'm running late and I have school tomorrow, so we better finish here. He said this to avoid a confrontation. It's something simple. He approached him and he tried to get away, but he felt several presences around him that had no intentions towards him. Would you die for me? He didn't pay attention to those words and, not seeing the expected reaction, she decided to put aside her role as a girl in love. Well, plan B. From his hand he created something similar to a spear made of pink light to stab his victim, who realized such an action and was surprised by such power. I'm already bored of this farce, so I'd better kill you once and for all, don't blame me, but the one who gave you that strange power. And just as he was about to stab him, the tip of the spear was stopped by a powerful force that did not allow him to move. Issei had a hand that, with the use of force, prevented that spear from harming him. They both struggled until Issei won by pushing her until he found the source. He immediately pulled out his lightsaber from his jacket, igniting it in a wave of green light in a Suresu pose. The girl, who now showed who she really was, looked in amazement at such an artifact similar to the swords of the exiled exorcists. Who are you? No matter what you do, you're not going to beat me, you should give up. The girl didn't think twice, and with another spear she went straight to kill the brown-haired boy, but he stopped the attacks with his lightsaber without any problem, since she didn't know how to use her weapon well. Using force again, he pushed her away, causing her to hit a tree. He stayed alert. Who sent you to kill me? He asked seriously. She just looked at him furiously because from her perspective she was being humiliated by a human. So Issei, noticing this, decides to make her talk by force. You will tell me who sent you, he ordered, extending his hand, closing his eyes. What are you trying to do? A mind game? He said mockingly. You will tell me who sent you, he ordered again, concentrating more. Stop, I'll tell you, but what? She mentally resisted, feeling a pain in her head. You will tell me who you. Enough, it hurts. He stopped when he heard her scream and saw her holding her head. He knew he wasn't going to make her talk. I apologize to you, your mind is a bit strong. Damn you, I'll kill you, damn human. She was going to attack again, but a presence made her stop. Issei also felt it and saw a blood-red energy vortex appear. And from that vortex came someone I didn't expect to see. The same girl who has been in his thoughts and dreams by force. Rias Gremory had arrived. Issei did not deny feeling a little intimidated by such a display of power, but he knew that he was not a bad person after all. There were Jedi who had threatening appearances, but they were Jedi loyal to the Republic and the Order. Their races did not define their lives. The Gremory heiress, he said with hatred. You are in foreign territory, fallen angel, you better leave, or I will have to take hostile measures against you. The foal growled, knowing that his plan failed, and now he had no chance to face the heiress, knowing that his target to kill would join her against him. So he chose to escape. This will not stay like this. And spreading his wings he flew away with some black feathers falling. Issei remained cautious in front of Rias even with his lightsaber lit, expecting hostile action from her. She calmly spoke to him. I know you have questions and I'll be happy to answer them, but I need to know if you listen to me in peace. If you wanted to kill me you would have done so already since you appeared, instead you saved me from any retaliation from any of your allies against me, so I have no problem listening to you. Gremory Senshi said to turn off her lightsaber and kept it hanging on her waist to finally pay attention not only to her, but to the other 4 people who came out hidden from the shadows. People he knew. I'm all ears, Miss Gremory. Rias smiled, knowing that the first step of her plan has begun. Not really knowing that everything that was happening was just the will of the Force, that she and the ex-Jedi joined their paths in the face of a storm that was approaching their lives. Nothing, everything. Let's stop being nothing to be everything. In a specific place, which is the occult club, was Issei, who was sitting in front of Rias, who was explaining some things related to the attack that had taken place. Being watched by 4 more people who are Himejima Akeno, Udo Kiba, Kaneko Taoho, and Kiryu Aika. They were part of the nobility of Rias Gremory and were watching what the brown-haired boy could do, although they doubted they could do anything to him. Since they were amazed by such power and skill that the ex-Jedi demonstrated. More Kiba, who was a knight and seeing how easily he dominated that fallen angel, doubted if he would have any chance of beating him in a duel, since he recognized his ability, and that green light sword was really powerful without the need for sacred energy. Let me see if I understand, Miss Gremory. Just call me Rias, I don't want to have formalities with you. Well, Rias tells me that in this world there are not only humans, but also beings that existed from ancient mythologies and legends that live hidden from normal sight, and that you are a demon in charge of this city, that is your territory. I'm not wrong, right? She denied. And I was attacked by that fallen angel for having a power that is a threat to her faction, but you prevented that so that at least I would owe you a favor, right? She nodded. Well, now the question is this: what do you want from me? I want you to join my entourage, and in exchange I will give you diplomatic protection against reprisals by the fallen for being on the side of the demons, monetary support, and if things go better you will have more. For Issei, that was a tempting offer because his funds were running out and it didn't help that he had few clients for his appliance repair work. With the help she offered him, he would have more and even enough to create the parts he needs to repair R3. But after Order 66 he has had paranoid after effects of always having to look behind him, fearing that someone might point a blaster at him. I don't know if it's a good idea. Rias looks at him and for some reason understands that he doesn't trust her, since the bad reputation of the demons doesn't help him on many occasions. Then I offer you this: you along with all those close to you will have protection from me, your problems will also be mine, and you will have my full support in your decisions, because I know that those decisions will not seek to harm third parties. No one will harm you for the demonic faction, I swear by the Mao. According to what I know and by belief, demons usually deceive those who make deals with them. He still did not trust. And more so knowing from the popular belief of demons. In a very risky move, she takes the brown-haired man's hands and makes him look her in the eyes, giving him her most determined look to make her position clear. But I am not those treacherous demons. I am Rias Gremory, and I keep my word not only for my family, but for my entourage who are important to me, just as you will be if you accept. He looked at her and there was no sign of lying in her. Only determination and affection towards the aforementioned, not knowing that the ex-Jedi was also included among them. Issei closed his eyes and tried to connect with the Force to see if it was the best thing to do. In the end, the Force also wanted it to be that way. So he spoke, looking at her now determined. Then with these conditions I surrender to you. She smiled, but inside she wanted to jump on him and hug him and kiss him. She had to calm down more. The first step has already been taken. Issei, on the other hand, could not help but feel uncomfortable, not because he felt much joy from her, although he decided to ignore that. She calmed down and spoke. Come tomorrow after school so we can proceed with what we agreed. You need to rest and assimilate everything well. Thank you. He stood up and, accompanied by Kiba, who was polite, went straight to the door but stopped halfway to ask something. Miss Rias, excuse my question, but how much am I worth for you to want to recruit me? For the underworld, nothing, he answered seriously, implying that he would just be another person in their ranks. He believed that this would be all and left, but when he reached the door. But for me, everything. That confused him as the door closed. Rias, on the other hand, smiled blushingly with even more power because she indirectly confessed to him all the importance she feels for him and that with time it will grow. Looking forward to the moment of seeing how far her beloved Knight of Light can go by her side. A new day has arrived. And our ex-GD was preparing to leave at the sound of the bell, but it's the Prince of Cow. Udo-kun is here. Honors us with his presence. Damn handsome boy. There were shouts of joy along with those of anger at the visit of a person. Knight Udo kibble loyal to the Gremory entourage and Rias. Excuse me ladies, I'm looking for Hyodo Issei. He had said his reasons for his visit politely. And that had left many in doubt since Issei was considered a gentleman for his actions and his way of speaking. The blonde approached him ex-GD. I'm Udo Kiba, please come with me. The brown-haired boy, without saying anything, nodded in agreement with the blonde. There were murmurs from several girls which were nothing holy, which I respect and don't blame me, I won't right here, since nowadays they get offended by everything. Time passed. Issei was meditating on his bed after a day of contracts. Since he gave his word under the conditions that Rias offered him, he was now a 4-pawn devil, sharing the pawn position with Ika, who has a sacred gear called Booster Gear that contained the Red Emperor Dragon. He became friends with her despite her being a pervert and flirting with him, as well as making fun of him. He also became friends with Kaneko Tower, who used to be near him and even sleep with her head on his leg when he was meditating. He often asked her why she did this, but she only replied, "There is peace in you." But Queen Akeno, it was a complicated relationship due to her flirtatious and playful side, since she usually makes fun of him, but when they went to hunt stray demons, he looked with fear and caution when he saw her torturing the stray, and since then he has not wanted to speak to her. It wasn't because he was angry with her, but because that moment reminded him of when he was tortured by Dooku who used force lightning on him, and that made him feel the sadness of her thinking if she did something that upset him. Her relationship with Kiba was one she didn't expect to have, since she once saw him train with a bamboo sword, but he took another one which they both trained with, although it was more like teaching, since she told him all his mistakes and how to correct them in a strict way, how his teacher would do it. Everything went well in those 2 weeks which was reincarnated as a demon. Now he was in the club meditating, trying to feel more his connection with the force. But then he felt another presence. It was Rias who had arrived. His relationship with her was something he wanted to keep neutral or professional. What he didn't know was that she had opposite plans with Issei to their relationship. She wanted to connect more with him. What are you doing, Ice? I'm meditating, but it helps me a lot. Well, you don't mind if I do it too, it just sounds interesting. Do you know how to meditate? I was hoping you could teach me. He wasn't sure about that, but there was no reason not to. Okay, I'll show him. He explained the steps to her and she followed them to the letter, although when it came to meditating, it was a bit difficult for her because she couldn't concentrate. Until he succeeded, but something had happened. Loose things began to slowly levitate in the club, and the worst thing was that it was not Issei's fault but hers. Issei managed to feel the strength in her. But you? She became distracted when she felt her lover's hands on her shoulders, and when she opened her eyes, things returned to the ground with some breaking. Ice, what's wrong? He didn't know what to answer, in fact he didn't expect such a thing. But you, may I have some of your blood? My blood? For what? She asked, curious about such a question. It's just that I have a science project and I could use some blood, just a few drops, I promise not to do anything strange. Without hesitation, she takes a pin and pricks her index finger, letting the brown-haired boy know that she accepts, and he immediately takes those drops as samples with a pair of glasses. Thank you, Butchu, I really appreciate it, and with that he immediately went home, leaving the retreat alone. He looked at all the things fallen on the ground and picked them up one by one, wondering why Issei with his telekinesis picked up the things. Not knowing that it was she herself who did it. Issei arrived and went to his room to take his astromech droid out of the closet and then turn it on. This cheerful man was going to speak, but Issei puts the blood sample in front of him. R3, I urgently need you to analyze the sample. The droid, without asking, pulled out a small arm from a compartment in his chest and took the sample to put it in a hole. A few minutes passed until the droid with a hologram gave the result of the entire analysis. But Issei collapsed to his knees upon seeing the only piece of information that interested him, a piece of information he never thought possible. The amount of midichlorians. 11,300 more than Master Qui-Gon Jinn, but how? I was trying to understand why such an amount went unnoticed from the order. But now he understood why the Force wanted him to go to her. A Force user must be taught to prevent her from falling to the dark side. But why does the Force want me to train her? If she is very old according to the doctrine of the Jedi Order. The droid spoke to him, somewhat annoyed. I'm not on the side of those who were the Jedi Council. If they didn't train people above 4 or 5 there must be a reason, but why should she be trained? The droid gave him sarcastic beeps. Thank you, Mr. Sarcasm, your wisdom is incomparable. The droid didn't say anything else and asked to be turned off so he could save energy as much as he wanted to move again. He did as requested and sat on his bed to reflect. He didn't want to be involved with Rias, but now that he knows this information and that by fate the Force awakened in her, he had to train her. He feared that his feelings and fears would play against him. As his teacher, he was afraid of ending up like him. I just hoped that everything would turn out well according to the will of the Force. Not knowing that his destiny with her was sealed from the day he met her. You're not the only one. Friends are the people who lift you up when others don't know you fell. It was an afternoon where Issei was returning from an errand. He still had in his mind the fact that he had discovered that his mistress is a user of the Force and he fears that she will fall to the dark side for some reason. It was the will of the Force that he could teach him. And he wasn't sure he could do it. He didn't even spend the time necessary to enjoy being a Jedi Knight after Order 66. After his first and last mission in. Cody, I know you didn't want to do it, but still. Hiya. He snapped out of his thoughts as he felt fear and panic from someone. And then hearing a thud on the ground to see the white panties of a girl who had tripped. He was uncomfortable seeing such a thing and he didn't know why, but he could hear Master Fisto's laughter in his mind. So he immediately went to his aid. Are you okay, miss? I might tend to fall a lot myself. Suddenly the wind blew away the veil that was covering her face and the brown-haired man managed to take it with the use of force without her realizing it. But when he looked into her eyes he felt two things. Her gaze into those beautiful emerald eyes reflected innocence and at the same time infinite kindness just by looking at them. Just like a feeling that he recently felt in his mistress, and it's not because she's a demon since she's human. If not because he felt something calling him. The Force, she is also sensitive. Then is it okay? He was brought out of his thoughts when she asked. Yes, I am, but what are you doing here, Miss M? Asia Argento, and I was assigned to the church in the city, but I got lost and I don't know where I am. If you want, I can guide you to the church since I know where it is. Thank you very much, sir, I feel that God sent you to help me. He felt chills at the word God because of his demonic trait. I honestly trusted more in the Force than in gods and mythological beings. When they arrived at what was a bird with an injury on its wing that was trying to climb to its nest in a tree, Issei intended to use force to help it get there when he saw that it had chicks, but he didn't expect to see what the sister immediately approached the bird and with some rings he healed the bird's wing. That left him even more surprised since that was a sacred gear, an artifact created by a powerful being that only those of the human or semi-human race can have. An example would be his partner Aika. I'm sorry, I just wanted to help, the blonde apologized, thinking she had scared him. Not at all, in fact I think I would have done the same as you. Your rings are very interesting, Asia-san. They are a gift that God has given me, I use it to help according to his teachings, although I would like to know more than just his teachings, I would like to know more about everything. Issei felt his need to know and learn about the blonde, but above all he felt how she had great compassion for life. He would assume that if she had been a Jedi, she would be a seeker of knowledge, a Jedi who would only use her lightsaber to protect what she cares about. Already upon reaching what is the base of a high hill, the church was visible, but the chestnut tree noticed not only the sensation of danger that he felt, but also the presences that were nearby, hidden, observing and waiting for any carelessness of his. It was obvious that he had to get out of there before unnecessary aggression led his leader into a conflict. I have to go, Miss Asia. Wait, don't you want to come in? I can invite you to tea, she asked him, wanting to spend more time with him. I didn't know, but every time I was with him I felt calm, like at peace. I would like to, but I have a lot of work to do, sorry. Okay, but will we see each other again? Of course, why not? Glad to hear it. The ex-GD already thought that would be all, but he didn't expect what followed. And without warning, the blonde grabbed the brown-haired boy by the cheeks and pressed her forehead against his. It was an innocent gesture for her, but for Issei it was different. On the planet Mandalorian, that is a gesture of friendship and love between two people. The kiss of Keldeb. And with that she smiled with a blush and left the brunette as if he were a droid with a fault in his memory processor. The only thing that was asked was, what just happened? Let's say your leader was not happy when you informed her of your act of good kindness to the sister. But he managed to argue that he did not approach the hostile territories of the church, so there was no danger. Still, she was not only upset but worried about her beloved Knight of Light. Now she sent him on an errand while the rest of the group went to kill a stray demon. I was thinking of inviting him, but this rejection, and it was for a reason. The Keno. He didn't like his sadism with his enemies. So he went to the errand without knowing that the aforementioned was watching him sadly as he left. When he arrived at the agreed place, which was a house he did not like at all, how he found the contractor. Died horribly. He didn't say anything, in fact he looked seriously at the person responsible who boasted of having committed such an act as if he were proud and crazy. His name was Freed. And now you continue, you bucking demon. You boast about having killed someone as if it were nothing. It is obvious that you are not someone who can help. That made the mad priest angry, and in his madness, he rushed straight to kill him with his holy leaf sword, but was blocked by a blue blade. Issei had used his lightsaber. I won't be a prey for you to kill. Both of them engaged in a duel which the madman tried to cut, but Issei in the Suressive style blocked without any problem, making the madman more frustrated. I couldn't hurt him. So he used his gun to try to hit him in the head, taking distance, but it didn't work. As Issei in slow motion deflected the shots of light bullets that some went to the walls and others to the madman, who was wounded in the leg and shoulder. Damn bucking demon. Issei turned off his saber when he saw that he already had the advantage and was going to knock him out, to at least hand him over to his leader, and she could decide what to do with him, but he didn't expect someone else to appear. It was Asia, who had come to raise a barrier as the madman ordered her, but just seeing the one who helped him that afternoon and the madman on his knees, she couldn't understand what was happening. But the situation worsened when they saw that there was a corpse. Now I was terrified. Asia-chan, help me, he killed the man I was going to bless, he is a murderer. Issei had to admit that he was very clever in playing the victim. Asia, when I got here the contractor who was going to make a deal with me was dead, and he was bragging about having killed him. I only defended myself from the attacks of this madman. She didn't know what to do or who to believe. Asia-chan, what are you waiting for? You have to kill him. My gun is there, shoot this bucking demon. Asia, you have a good heart, I knew it from the moment I saw you, and since you helped that bird, you would not use a weapon. Please, you must listen to me. The words of both confused the blonde even more. But Issei told her something that made her come to her senses. What is your inner self telling you? What is your heart telling you, Asia? She thought and understood. Many times he felt the dark intentions of the priest towards him, and he was afraid. But when she met Issei, she felt a lot of peace and security just with his presence. It was obvious who was telling the truth and who was lying here. But before he gave his verdict, the madman, in a desperate act, used his corrupted sword and tried to cut off the head of the chestnut, who was unable to turn on his lightsaber to block the attack. He was going to be beheaded. But no. The wave of invisible power pushed the madman until he hit the wall in the kitchen, leaving him stunned. There was a moment of silence. Issei saw the blonde with her hands in front of her, very surprised at what she did and regretting having used it. Asia, you. Issei-san, don't be afraid of me, please don't get away from me, I'm not a witch. I was shedding tears, fearing the worst. But a handkerchief wiped away those tears, and it was just the handkerchief that was floating in the air. And it wasn't her who did it. She looked at the brown-haired boy and saw that he had one hand controlling the handkerchief. You're not the only one who has that power, Asia-san, I have it too. Now for her this was a dream. She wasn't alone, there was someone like her. The madman managed to get up and was going to attack the nun for what she did, but again he went all the way to the kitchen because it was Issei who did it. We have to get out of here, Asia-san. But she was going to tell him to leave for his safety, but a hand reached out to her. Come with me, Asia, I can help you understand your gift, come. He didn't understand, in fact he didn't know what was going to happen next, but he didn't deny that hand. He took it and then left there, leaving the madman in that place behind. Issei took her in bridal form, blushing the blonde, and with his demon wings he flew away. For Asia, she didn't know if everything she had happened or seen was a dream made by her need for friends and knowledge. Because of his need for love. But now she felt protected by someone who had the same powers as her, and she wanted to learn, and who knows, go further with the brown-haired boy. For now, she would enjoy the peace and warmth that his presence transmits to her when she is in his arms. Instead, Issei. He knew he had gotten himself into trouble, but his master would not abandon anyone as long as there was hope, and he as his apprentice will follow that legacy. By his teacher. By Skywalker. Lean on me. One of the most important qualities of friendship and love is support. Asia woke up in a room where she now resides for her safety until the threat of the fallen in the area has been controlled. He got up and went to what was the kitchen, where he saw the brown-haired boy preparing breakfast, already wearing his uniform from the school he attended. Good morning, Asia-san, I prepared breakfast for you. Issei-san, you shouldn't have. You're my guest, of course I should. They both sat down to have breakfast in a pleasant peace, although Asia saw how an apple went straight to Issei's hand, who was holding it, and bit it. You're amazing, Issei-san. You can do it too, Asia, try it. She, out of excitement, tried to do the same as the chestnut, but the apple, instead of going to her hand, exploded, leaving stains on the table. I'm sorry, Issei-san, I've never done it before. Calm down, Asia, it's my fault for asking you for something you weren't ready for, even I had difficulties when I tried it for the first time. How did you learn to use your power? It's called the Asia Force, and I was taught how to use it. And who were they? Asia could see from the brown-haired boy's face that perhaps those people were no longer present. I'm sorry. Don't worry anyway, I want you to stay inside the house until things calm down, and then we can talk to my leader so he can give you protection. But Issei-san, what if they manage to find me? She asked worriedly. I managed to cover my tracks last night, let me worry about that and try to rest, because once everything is over I will show you. He used the what is it called? He asked innocently. It's strength Asia, and believe me, I feel that you will really like learning from her, she said, while collecting the dishes and washing them. When he took his bookcase and his lightsaber hidden in his clothes, he was going to leave but. Issei-san. Tell me Asia. She approached him and like the first time they met she put her forehead against his, making him blush. Have a great day, do your best. He didn't know whether to smile or thank her for such words, and such an action that in Mandalore is a sign of affection, but one thing was certain. He blushed since he didn't deny that Asia is a very beautiful girl. Thanks Asia. He only left because he was afraid of falling in love. According to the Jedi code he shouldn't do it. Without knowing that I was actually already doing it. Asia was cleaning the house as she didn't like doing nothing. Although he also practiced the use of force by trying to attract small things to his hands, but they ended up breaking, which made him have more to clean. She arrived at Issei's room, which was tidy for a boy his age. Still he started to clean it, but suddenly when he looked under the bed he saw something that caught his attention. There were two things. A long tube-shaped object which had a button. And a blue cube that looked high-tech. The blonde didn't know what to do with those things until a feeling called her. It was the same feeling that has helped him many times in his life and in his struggle to survive. That feeling told him to use his power on the cube. She didn't want to do it because the bucket belonged to her friend and she didn't want him to be upset for taking something that didn't belong to him. But the sensation became stronger to the point that he could no longer resist. He used force to press a piece which arranged others until the cube showed a holographic image of a short green-skinned person. Young Padawan, my greetings to you, my name is Yoda, and if by force you are here then you will learn from me. Asia did not understand what her eyes were seeing or if she did the right thing by touching that cube. But from that moment on, his life would change forever. Things for Issei were not all that good as he had to inform his leader that he had the sister under his protection. Iridide's reaction was as expected. It's a joke. A pleasant nothing. Gremory-sama's circumstances forced me to take these measures, Asia Argento argued that she was forced to work for them, reported a brown-haired man resisting his mistress's power increases out of anger. That's not the point Ice, do you know what you could get yourself into if the Fallen try to retaliate? Your actions could harm everyone here. I covered my tracks well Gremory-sama, they won't find me for a while, I just asked for your support. She didn't want to do it and it wasn't because she didn't trust him. It was because it was a serious situation and if everything went wrong the Fallen would have a solid reason to start invading their territory and a conflict could return. But still he feels that Issei knew what he was doing. And something inside her told her to trust him and it wasn't her feelings but something else. Something very strong. Issei, I will provide protection to the sister in exchange for something. That would be Gremory-sama. Let her join my entourage, only then will I be able to protect her in the name of my family. Give me a week to convince her. He said this because he knew that the blonde would not give up her doctrine and he had to convince her somehow. You have 1 week Ice and no more Gremory-sama please, even though I am your leader I want to be your friend. Understood Rias-sama. And with that he left, leaving Iridide who smiled bitterly because she had tried many ways to get closer to him, but he refused or rejected all the outings she invited him on. It was as if he avoided friendship or affection. Issei instead sighed, trying to calm down. He was not a fool since he knew of her and everyone else's intentions of friendship. But the GD code prevented it and it was not only the code. It was something stronger and at the same time dark. I hate you. He came out of that memory that no matter how much he wanted to, he could not forget his own mistake. A mistake that will last you a lifetime even if it's not yours. The days passed and Issei was attentive to his contracts as well as the surveillance of his house since he installed special sensors in case it is attacked. But what surprised the ex-GD was that Asia, as the days went by, began to have more calm in her being, she was calmer and when she went out to the patio to water the flowers in the garden, she seemed happier to the point where the birds perched on her shoulders and sang their beautiful songs. Issei didn't understand how Asia went from worried to calm and happy. But on the 7th day when the deadline expires, Issei, who had previously told the blonde about the deal, spoke to her. Asia-san, I told you about the protection deal a few days ago, I wanted to know if you. I accept. You thought about it for I said I accept being a devil under the command of Rias Gremory-sama. He was surprised and it was no wonder since he thought he would have to convince her, but it wasn't like that. Asia me. Issei-san, what do you think if we go out together? This is my last day as a human since I accepted and I want to spend it today with you. I don't think it's a good idea, Asia-san, we should go straight to. Please. She had taken him by the hands and looked into his eyes using her tenderness and innocence to convince him. He couldn't say no to those eyes. Okay, we will go out, but when we finish we will go with Rias-sama. Maid. Issei went to get dressed to leave, leaving Asia alone in the dining room. Not knowing that the blonde smiled more as if she expected that. They both enjoyed their afternoon in which they did many things. From eating hamburgers to enjoying the mall and its attractions. But at one point in the park they both stopped to rest and enjoy the cool winter afternoon. At that time Asia had healed with her sacred gear a wrist that was injured due to carelessness and training. You are good at healing, not even the Force is able to heal that fast. Is the Force capable of healing Issei-san? Yes it is, and of many things that seem impossible to imagine, even to see those who have left and are now part of the Force. I didn't think my power had great possibilities and options. I've always been told not to use it, that I'm a witch for doing things that in the eyes of God are blasphemies. He looked at her as she had a sad expression, one which is more or less related. Asia-san, what happened to you? It's a long story, Issei-san. She tells him her story. One full of sadness that when she was discovered by her sacred gear, she was used by the church to the point where she was not allowed to have friends or even an acquaintance, she was seen as an object and not someone. But when she healed a wounded demon immediately and without a doubt she was accused of being a witch, and witches in ancient times were burned. But he managed to escape thanks to his power that many saw as another curse. The Force. But she also hurt several very important bishops and priests who wanted to see her suffer, earning their hatred and putting a price on her head. She had no choice but to seek asylum in the fallen angels. And from that moment she was considered a witch because of people's ignorance. After telling such a story, Issei, who was a firm believer of justice, had become angry at such a thing that had been done to her. But looking directly at her he asked her a question. Tell me, Asia, are you scared? I had it back then, I'm still afraid they'll find me. Don't be afraid, Asia, you must push those fears away from within you. Why, Issei-san? Because according to what a great sage told me, fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, and hate only brings suffering. That is the dark side of the Force. The dark side. It sounds horrible. Not only does it sound horrible, it is horrible to the point that there is no way to escape it once you dive in. I am very surprised that you don't hate anyone at that point. Seeing him mention the dark side of the Force terrifies her because he mentions it as if it were something forbidden. Something that should not exist. Issei-san, did you see someone who fell to the dark side? He didn't say anything, in fact he was afraid to say something he wanted to forget. Asia, I can only tell you that please never give in to fear, never give in to anger, never give in to hate, please never give in to the dark side, she said it with some fear. She looked with a plea for her own safety. Then help me stay by my side, Issei-san, be my pillar just as I will be yours. Asia-san, that doesn't work. If that person you remember fell to the dark side, it must be because he had no one to help him, he was alone despite being surrounded. Please Issei-san, lean on me, and I will lean on you. She takes him by the hand to make him understand. I wanted to be by his side. Issei still wanted to believe that the Jedi code was necessary in his life, but the more he met more people, the more it became impossible for him to ignore the bonds that were beginning to form in his heart with them. I was going to speak. How romantic, but it makes me nauseous. Issei immediately stood up from the bench and took out his blue lightsaber ready to protect Asia. The one who appeared was none other than the one who fell and tried to kill him. Rainer. Did you lose something, Miss Fallen? The ex-Jedi asked mockingly. I lost something, but it seems I found it. Would you be so kind as to return it to me? His intentions were obvious. I loved Asia. You're going to have to do a lot of paperwork if you want it. Well, I'm going to take it now and save myself the paperwork, she said angrily, taking out a pink spear of light. I don't believe it. I didn't ask you, he said, snapping his fingers, and they were immediately surrounded by guys covered in black robes and white swords of sacred energy. Three Fallen. And the madman who tried to kill him in that house. Issei was surrounded and looking for a way out. Stop, I'll go with you, but don't hurt Issei-san. He couldn't believe it and was going to stop her, but when she looked at him she stopped him. Is it a plan? Asia approached the fallen man who smiled with pride, believing that everything was going according to his plan. Issei felt frustrated, clenching his teeth as he believed they were going to get away with it. We're leaving, Asia, your suffering ends today. He looked at her and was going to attack, but he stopped when he saw how the blonde moved her lips. He understood what he had said and it had left him in shock. The only thing he could do now was save her, and he was willing to do whatever it took to make that happen. He does not fear because the Force is with him. The liberation of Asia. Freedom would be the opportunity to be what we would never be. The night had fallen. Issei, you know I can't help you now. And the chestnut had asked for help from his leader and mistress. Miss Rias-sama, I know that this violates the conditions of my service to the entourage, but I only ask for one favor. Asia had agreed to be part of this. And you should have come here immediately. I can't help her if she's still human, and the fallen consider her their property. So I should abandon Asia. Even though I agree to be part of your group. Rias was going to speak, but Akeno whispered something in her ear in a serious way, making the redeed also become serious. I didn't say that either, Issei, and I know that even if I tell you not to go, you'll go anyway. Carry out an attack while I take care of some things. She delicately takes his chin while looking at him sweetly. The church is enemy territory and your pawn ability is valid. Use what you have and above all use what's yours. She said that last thing with affection and then left without the boy, realizing that she passed the hand with the one that touched him to her lips, blushing. The brown-haired boy didn't understand what the redeed was going to do, but at least he got permission to raid the place, and that was the only thing that mattered to him at that moment. So he left accompanied by someone else. Udo Kiba, Kaneko Taoho and Kiryu Aika. Eyes, you don't have to accompany me. We will go anyway, Issei-kun, after all we are partners. Then meet me at the meeting point. I'll go get some things that will help us. But the circle of transportation he left his two companions alone. They were at the agreed meeting point waiting for Issei, and suddenly the light appeared. It was Issei, but he didn't come alone. Issei-kun, what is that? He's my mechanic friend, meet R3. The droid beamed in delight, happy to be back with his master on another adventure. For days now he has been able to repair his power cell and recharge, so that the droid is already active. The demons looked at the droid with fascination as robots were not common. When they arrived at what is the church, Issei immediately gave an order. R3 scans the area. The droid with a scanner on the back of its head waved around the building and then finished displaying a holographic image of the place including the hidden sections. That left the demons most amazed at such technology. Well, if my suspicions are correct, the ritual for extraction would be in a protected place which only has one entrance, so the basement is the only suitable place. Their entrance can be seen from this point, which would be the altar. Issei-kun must be waiting for us if they know we are going to attack. I know Kiba and there is no time to make other plans, so going straight into the lion's den is the only thing left for us. The group nodded and went to attack, while elsewhere Rias along with Akeno carried out a distraction attack to attract the fallen. They were having some trouble. Do you think that your ridiculous pawn will be able to stop Rainer? He is doomed, said one of the fallen ones who looked like a lowly girl. I think he will stop her. Not for nothing is he my knight of light. He'll just die. He's nothing but useless trash. What the fallen didn't know was that this unleashed something in Rias and it wasn't anything good. For a moment the she-devil's eyes glowed yellow and her power of destruction increased. Congratulations fallen, now I have more reasons to kill you. I speak to you with hatred. While inside the church, Issei, who was facing Freed again, felt a disturbance in the force and looked where it was. I was afraid it was Rias. Don't get distracted, you bucking demon. He walked away from the madman to let Noah deal with him while they proceeded with the plan. Eyes entertain him. With force he moved the podium and went down to the basement with R3, leaving his friends to take care of the madman. Upon arriving at the place he could see dozens of exiled exorcists, and on an altar was Asia chained and with her clothes torn, while Rainer smiled in a deranged way. Asia. The aforementioned looked up, seeming tired. Issei-san. How sweet, but you're late. Soon I'll have her sacred gear and I'll become powerful, said the fallen one, believing that she had the upper hand. But when they were both still looking at each other they just smiled and both said. What are you talking about? If you already lost. She didn't understand until the chains that held the blonde in an inexplicable way broke, leaving her free, and she fell to the ground elegantly and then with the force destroyed the altar of the ritual. All before the eyes of the fall, seeing that one moment he was in control and the next everything was out of his hands. What the buck? How is that? Did I do it? Well, someone taught me how to do it and I also learned that I shouldn't be afraid, and that includes you. How dare you oppose me? Remember your place in the world. I created a spear of light and was going to stab her. Asia. But I don't expect a brown-haired boy to throw a turbulent object, and it went to the blonde's hand who used the force to bring it and then turn it on, and from it, a green sheet of light came out deflecting the tip of the spear to the ground. Asia walked away and stood on guard in a pose that Issei recognized. The Shaicho. The fall upon seeing the lightsaber stepped back looking at the nun with hatred and then spoke to her. Are you going to face me? If you're just a useless witch, don't even think you can beat me. I don't want to beat you, I want to stop you to prevent your desire for power from hurting others, and the truth is I'm not a witch, I'll be a Jedi. Issei, who was fighting against the exiled exorcists, smiled upon hearing that, knowing that he had begun to awaken the force. The fall frowned and things got worse as more demons arrived. Issei-kun, we came to help you, Kiba shouted as he launched himself to cut an exile. They arrived sooner than I thought. The crazy lover of cuts escaped, said Ika, while from her sacred gear, which were two red metallic gloves, energy came out in the form of green claws that cut whoever. Howard Kaneko said as she hit another exile, breaking his neck. The fall took his opportunity to use his wings and escape through the exit, while Asia jumped in pursuit, using the force to get the exorcists out of the way. I have to go help her, said Issei. Oh, we'll take care of it here. Thanks Kiba, I promise to show you some techniques after this, he said as he left accompanied by his astromech droid, who with one arm over his head, stunned whoever tried to attack him. When the brown-haired boy arrived he saw Asia healing a cut on her shoulder and Rainer more furious than she was. Issei was going to advance, but Asia spoke. Issei-san, please, I have to do this alone. Jedi, don't fight alone, Asia. I must close this chapter of my life, I must overcome my fears, only then I can be free from them, only then I can live my new life. He didn't want to let her have this fight alone, but he knew how important it was to her. So he turned off his lightsaber and took a step back. If I see that you are losing, I will intervene. Asia thanked him with a smile and then stood up and faced the fall with her lightsaber ready. How pathetic you are nothing more than useless. Both launched themselves with Asia stopping the aggressive attacks of the fall. Each attack made her retreat and the fall threw its spears, forcing the blonde to dodge what she could. But Asia was not far behind as she used the force to throw wooden benches and debris to distract her. Objects are thrown, weapons are crossed, and objects are thrown again to cross weapons again without forgetting to dodge with jumps. Issei looked at everything and was more surprised by such ability that the blonde had, which she shouldn't have if she wasn't a more advanced Padawan. He only came to one conclusion, and that was that Asia is a prodigy in strength and learning. He saw how he made some mistakes like not reacting in time, fearing hurting himself more when falling and leaving openings in his defense. But that could be fixed with training and teaching. The minutes passed and Asia was starting to get tired. I had to finish the meeting already. In her memory she had memories of those days where for curing a demon and being a user of force, she was accused of being a witch and condemned to the stake. How he used his power to escape. How those people who were kind to her pointed at her and denigrated her. Horribly. But at that time I just wanted to stop suffering from loneliness. I no longer wanted to be ignorant of others. And now that he met Issei and the Force, he only had one wish. She didn't care about having to hurt the one who treats her as an object. He didn't care anymore because he wasn't afraid anymore. I just wanted to win. So I used another combat style that Issei could recognize. The Iteru. Asia's movements had become faster and more acrobatic to the point that they began to overwhelm the fall, that it was almost impossible for her to stop the blows and stabs. His spears of light broke with every 3 clashes and he had a hard time making more. Determined Asia used her strength and with it she lifted a podium to throw it to the fall that destroyed the podium, but she didn't expect the blonde to use the attack as a distraction. And the worst thing was that in a cut. Ag. He cut off her hands from the fall up to the wrist, causing her to scream in pain and writhe on the ground in agony. It was obvious that he won the duel. Asia just looked at her with pity while she still had her lightsaber lit and Issei approached her congratulating her for winning. The clap was heard and it was Rias who watched the entire duel next to Akeno, who smiled as she heard the groans of agony from the fall. It was an excellent duel that I witnessed, one where a girl breaks free from her shackles. You must be. Rias Gremory at your service, and I am the one who offers you a new life if you are willing to give up your humanity. It doesn't matter if I'm human or demon, I will never stop being myself, so I gladly accept being part of your entourage if that means I can be by Issei-san's side. Issei had blushed a little at those words, something that the Redeed noticed but did not take it seriously. Excellent as for you, he said, looking at the fallen woman who was put on her knees by Kaneko and Ika, while Kiba had the edge of his sword on her neck. If you think of killing me you will make a grave mistake, my superiors will take my death with reprisals to your entourage, he said, believing to have the advantage. In fact, your superiors officially denied knowing about any activity that you and your group have done in my territory, so officially you are no longer part of the Fallen. I have killed your companions and your lackeys dead, it is obvious that this is your end. The Fall could not believe what the Redeed said, but deep down it was true. And now Rias created a sphere of power of destruction ready to disappear at the Fall. She begged even to Issei, who ignored her but then told her. You don't have to be afraid, you will become one with the Force, were her words as she smiled. And with that the Redeed wiped her off the map with some hatred for begging her Knight of Light. With nothing to do there, everyone decided to leave. But not before Issei saw Asia looking at the altar where the cross was. She looked at the altar, then gave a bow of thanks, and with a smile turned around to take the brown-haired boy's arm and leave, happy to make him blush. He ignored the taunts of his astromech droid who was bothering him. The next day Issei was meditating on the couch as he usually does, but then he felt Rias approaching him. I'm glad everything turned out well in the end, Issei. I know Rias-sama, now the group has grown and my duty will not only be with you, but also with Asia and the others, and I swear that I will do my best to guarantee your safety and that of everyone Rias-sama. She smiled affectionately, then hugged him and kissed his forehead, making the ex-GD blush, making him nervous. It's my lucky charm Issei, I hope the best of you and more, he said that last thing in a whisper. The chestnut's mind seemed like it was going to have a short circuit, but a current made him wake up. It was his astromech droid that now served as an assistant to Rias and the others. I was already hearing him mocking. And why was that, I asked him angrily. The droid responded mockingly. Looks like someone is going to be left without an oil change for being rude. The droid complained as he went to Asia, who arrived and she saw everything. Issei-san, you are very mean to poor R3. Don't defend him Asia, that son of a hitch is a martyr. While he was arguing, Rias just smiled, knowing that now things will be more fun, although she didn't forget that feeling of power when she killed those fallen ones. It's a dark feeling. I hope I never feel that way again. Without knowing it, something in her had awakened. And it wasn't a good thing for the future. Well, let's put that aside now, let's celebrate. She said this while Akeno, with a smile, brought a cart that had a delicious cake, leaving the brown-haired boy smiling bitterly since in his welcome, they didn't even make him a cake, with the droid happy to help and move again. Everyone enjoyed it, and Asia showed off her acquired skills in the Force, something that caught everyone's attention, and more so Kiba's. While perched on a branch, a red bird watched everything from the window. And apparently the problems are not over yet. For not believing. Believing in yourself makes what you want happen. It was a new day in Kuu. And on a plot of land in the old building were two people being watched by more than Rias and her entourage, along with another entourage. Sona Citri's entourage. They looked at Issei and Asia, who were meditating. For later. Get up and stand guard with your lightsabers. Asia, ready? I'm ready, Issei-san. And in an instant both had a duel. Asia gave blow after blow to break Issei's defense, but he used Suresu, a form of combat based on defending and countering. He jumped to get some distance. Keep your emotions calm Asia, don't get frustrated, Issei told her calmly. Asia launched herself again, trying, but the result was the same, until both of them struggled with their leaves trying to subdue the other. Their leaves gave off sparks when they came into contact with the struggle. We're at a standstill, what are you going to do? The brown-haired boy asked him without any signs of effort. She tried to gain ground but couldn't do it. Then he looked at a rock and used the force to make it hit the brown-haired boy, but he, with a free hand without breaking the struggle, stopped it in the air without any problem. Nice try. Until he pushed her and made her roll on the ground. She immediately stood up to analyze the situation. I never expected the chestnut to be someone almost invincible in his standards. Issei said he was a GD knight and the highest rank is GD master, so Issei's masters were totally invincible. Well, with the entourages. They were amazed by such a demonstration and use of what they knew as telekinesis, something not often seen, but seeing it used so lightly was surprising. And more to Kiba, Tsubaki, who was Queen Citri, and the Citri knights, who were fascinated with the lightsaber and its power. Well, now let's move on to using the force. Did Rias-sama bring what I asked for? Of course, Ice. Iri made what looked like a van appear in a magic circle on the ground. Well, although it must not have been new, a used one was enough. She shrugged, smiling at how humble he was. Well, Asia, your lesson now will be to lift that truck 6 meters off the ground. 6 meters? Issei-san, that truck is heavy and big, moving rocks is different. You see it differently, but it is not. You are limiting yourself by your mind that you put those limits on yourself. You must forget, unlearn what you know. She still had her doubts, but she still obeyed. I'll try, Issei-san. No, Asia, don't try it, just do it. Trying is leaving everything half done, and nobody likes that. She nodded. He closed his eyes and used the force with his hand to try to lift the truck. For a few minutes I couldn't do anything but lift her just 15 centimeters off the ground. She got tired and got on her knees, agitated. It's too big for me, I can't, Issei-san. It doesn't matter the size, because I have seen someone who is not judged because of his size, and you already know who I'm talking about. The GD can do great feats because the force is their ally. It gives life and moves it like everything we know. We are all part of it, we are light and not matter. Everyone was listening to Issei's lesson very attentively, and especially Rias and Sona. The force is in the air, the earth, in the trees, and in everything around us, even in you and that truck. Asia wanted to believe what Issei was telling her. It seemed like there were more things that she didn't know, but the logical part tells her otherwise. I'm sorry, Issei-san, but you demand the impossible from me, and I can't do it. Forgive me. She feels sad for failing her friend and leaves to at least try another day. But I didn't expect what was going to happen. Issei calmly used the force. And slowly the truck rose from the ground. And he didn't stop. It rose to the 6 meters he requested, and it was still rising. That left everyone stunned as the brown-haired boy did it as if it were nothing. The truck rose to 10 meters from the ground and then slowly returned to the ground without any problem. Asia, who had watched everything together with the astromech droid, was speechless. When the van reached the ground, she approached the XGD. Issei-san, I can't believe it. And that's why you fail, Asia-san, because you don't believe, she said, smiling calmly, making most of those present blush. He walked away, leaving everyone thinking about his words. Words that little by little began to make them grow. The days went by and things were going calmly. Issei continued training Asia, and she achieved great achievements in her learning, from lifting the truck to 6 meters to meditating almost imperturbably. Her lightsaber skills were standard, but Issei deduced that she was not one of the Jedi who liked combat like Masters Obi-Wan and Windu. And then when I was going to take Asia to a new level, someone approached. Ice, can we talk? We already are, Rias-sama, but ask whatever you want, he said, looking at her. Look, since I saw how you train Asia with her power, I wanted to know if you. What about me? Rias-sama, he asked, curious about the patterns the Redeed was making. If you want to teach me. For Issei, this was what he feared. That she wants to learn. Although it was the will of the Force, she feared that it would be easy for her to be seduced by the dark side. He was about to open his mouth to give her a resounding no, but the blonde interrupted him. Of course, Rias-sama, let's learn together, she said happily while taking her hands. Rias and Asia have made a very good emotional bond, in which they both saw each other as good friends, and the brown-haired boy deduced that with the passage of time, they would become like sisters. But he came out of those ramblings when he found out what the blonde had said. Asia-san, can we talk for a moment? Without letting her answer, he took her by the wrist and took her to a secluded place, far from the good hearing of the Redeed, who did not understand why she felt the refusal of her Knight of Light pawn. When they were far enough away, he spoke to her. Asia, it's not a good idea to teach her about strength. But why, Issei-san? I feel that she is sensitive. Because I felt that he was afraid, very afraid. Fear, according to what you told me, fear is one of the ways that one can fall to the dark side. It is, that's why I don't think I should teach him even if the will of the Force wants it. Issei-san, if the Force wants it, we must follow that. What you yourself told me that the Jedi follow what the Force dictates. But according to the code no longer exists. There was a moment of tension between the two, and it was caused by Asia. Since she freed herself from her church ties and started with La Fuerza, she has wanted to express her feelings for the chestnut. She had her feelings very clear, she was in love with Issei. But every attempt was rejected by him, and it wasn't because he didn't feel the same way about her, it was because of what he himself told her. The Jedi code. I understood why, but I didn't understand why the Jedi had to be closed-minded beings in their feelings. If she feels stronger on the light side, thanks to her pure feelings and her fixed priorities, that ensure she doesn't fall to the dark side. I wanted Issei to understand, but he refused to do so. Asia-san, understand that. One thing is to understand and another is to accept. Issei-san, I feel that it is the will of the Force that I have been sensitive to it. I feel deep inside that the Force wants me to be happy by your side, it knows what it is doing. She takes him by the hand and puts that hand on her chest, making him blush. Issei-san, everything happens for a reason, and I believe that reason is a pure one that will bring prosperity to you, me, Rias-sama, to all those who join us, and those who are with us. You must believe in the Force now more than ever. You must believe that accepting your feelings makes you not only stronger but happy. Unlearn what you know. He wanted to believe in the sweet words of that girl who teaches, but also gives him her love unconditionally. But those memories, the memories of the fall of the Jedi, were always present in his memory. Asia, you are asking me for the impossible. He turned his back on her, still remembering those words. I hate you. But. Issei-san, I love you. I hear something opposite to your memories. He looked back at Asia, who smiled and approached his face to give him a sweet kiss on the lips, leaving him shocked by such a display of affection on her part. But what shocked him the most was that she hugged him not only to feel his warmth, but to kiss his neck and tell him 3 times with each kiss, I love you. All those displays of affection without giving in to the bad desires and emotions that lead one to the dark side. He looked at her still in disbelief, since as a child when he was an initiate, his instructors always told him that the bonds of affection were dangerous, but it was not what he thought. Asia, you don't fall to the dark side. I can't believe it. And that is why you fail, Issei-san, because you don't believe, he said, looking at her more in love and calm than ever, giving her one more kiss on the lips. Making it clear to him that her pure love for him will never make him fall to the dark side. Never. While in an unknown place in Kuu. So this is the territory of the Mau sisters. I don't see the big deal. What do you want us to do, boss? Get everything ready. This peace has lasted too long. The war will resume here. That person had war plans. And only a guardian of peace can stop him. In the face of anger. Anger is a poison that one takes hoping that the other dies. Things were calm in Kuu. Issei, despite still accepting Asia's feelings, tries to open his heart to her more so when he tries. Let's say he apologizes and then goes to meditate. He can't be blamed since he spent his entire childhood growing up in a doctrine devoid of feelings and only calm, although the only ones who managed to get him out of his mind were his teacher Anakin and his friend Ahsoka. This was new to him. He began training Rias, who was happy to not only learn about the Force, but also spend time with him. She and Asia learned and hung out together during their breaks. And everything was going to be normal if it weren't for things that were starting to happen. Kiba began to have different behaviors than he usually has. And the worst thing was that in training his blows were more aggressive to the point that the brown-haired man had to knock him out or leave him unconscious with the Force. He knew something was happening not only to him but to the city as he felt a disturbance in the Force. Like something bad was going to happen and I had to stop it. Things got worse when two exorcists affiliated with the church requested an audience with the city officials. And that was what had him here acting as a protector behind the sofa where Rias and Sona were, and next to him were the Queen's Tsubaki, who remained serious just like a Keno. The only difference was that Queen Gremory tried not to bother the brown-haired boy with her presence. In front of the entourage leaders were the exorcists who introduced themselves as Zenobia Corda and Irina Shidu. The holy swords Excalibur were recently stolen from our main bases. The reason why they had requested an audience was stated. Issei was trying to find out why the knight was releasing so much hatred in front of those present. And just as the meeting ended and they were getting ready to leave, something had happened. I didn't want to believe it, but I could recognize you. You are Asia Argento, the fallen saint who was named a witch by the high leaders of the Holy Church. I am, she told him calmly. I didn't think you would fall so low by joining the demons. That proves that the words of my superiors were true. Tell me, do you still believe in God? Zenobia, I don't think she still believes after she was sentenced to be burned at the stake, Irina said. I don't believe in him anymore now. I believe in something that opens more doors for me and allows me to connect more with life. What blasphemies are you saying? The blue-haired girl asked angrily as she expected repentance. That if I had continued to be by God's side, I would not have known the extent of the gift with which I was born, and it is not my sacred gear, but what you do not understand. For the exorcist, his words were an insult to her beliefs. I learned things that the church didn't allow me to, and I live what they didn't let me have: friends, and the love of someone who I'm sure would risk their life selflessly for me. I'm not a saint or a witch, I'm something you won't understand until you're willing to do so. All of Asia's words were not only sweet in her voice, but calm and full of kindness. Issei couldn't be more proud to see how that girl he feared now made clear her desire to be part of the Force. On the other hand, the blue-haired girl was now more furious as she expected some feeling of regret from the blonde, but nothing. Not even a shred of remorse. How dare you disrespect the Almighty God? Out of anger and rage, he took the bandaged sword which was uncovered from its bandages, showing itself with its blade. You deserve to sink into the abyss. Zenobia no was the scream of Irina, who tried to stop her. Everything was fast. The other demons were going to stop her as soon as Issei stopped Kiba, who wanted to rush to kill with the Force to avoid a conflict. I wasn't worried about Asia since she. What the hell? I could manage it. Since he stopped with the Force the blade that was going to his neck. I was doing it like nothing happened. Do you use your witch powers, she said, still angry, trying to move her sword. You fear what you don't know, I understand that, but fear only leads to suffering, just like your fear of the rules imposed by the church. She approached his face, still having control of the sword. I feel your anger and your envy when you see me happy, but let me tell you that what I have is also within your reach. You live in fear which you disguise with devotion, but I do not offer you fear, I offer you peace and the life you dream of. You don't know me, he said, trying to sound strong. I don't need to know you to know what you want, I can feel it. You want to know why I'm happy, despite what I've been through, and I can show it to you. For Zenobia it was a challenge and she really wanted to do it. I wanted to wipe that smile off the blonde who abandoned grace and the fear of God just for the knowledge that they are considered blasphemies. You're not going to fight alone, I want a duel too. And who are you? I am your senpai, but your superiors considered me defective. Asia looked at Issei, and he nodded, giving his permission not only to face the exorcist, but to allow Kiba to fight. He wanted to know how much his hatred was at that moment. The barrier was put in place in which the two exorcists were going to face each other against Asia and Kiba, who felt the knight's not very good emotions, fearing that he would fall to the dark side. The exorcists took off their robes, revealing their combat suits, which were somewhat revealing. Something that made Peon Citri blush, and they gave him a snitch. Issei patted his forehead, losing the little respect he had for the church and them. This will not be notified by the church. Let's begin, said Zenobia, preparing herself. Asia was going to talk to her partner, but he didn't give her the chance and launched an attack on the blue-haired girl, who was waiting for her with disappointment. She sighed, already seeing that coming, and then the other honey-haired exorcist launched herself with her Excalibur, wanting to end the encounter, thinking it was a waste of time and believing it would be easy. But I don't expect the blonde to dodge his first attack as if nothing happened. That. I hope you didn't think it would be easy because it won't be. Irina, taking Asia's words as mockery, launched an attack from above hoping to finish it off, but she didn't expect the attack to be blocked. What the hell? He didn't understand how a simple sacred blade stopped his powerful Excalibur, as if it were nothing until he realized that it wasn't a sacred blade, since it had no color at all, but rather a beautiful ruby green color. And the bad thing for her was that she didn't seem overwhelmed. You must calm down. Don't tell me what to do, which she said angrily. Both now faced each other in a duel which the girl with pigtails was losing due to the speed at which the blonde moved with jumps and powerful attacks driven by gravity, using Shaicho and Atera movements like a certain green master. She didn't understand how someone whom the exorcists considered a burden could be so good at fencing. And that speed was insane. How had his superiors not noticed such talent? Zenobia was having no trouble facing Kiba, and it wasn't because she was more talented than him, but because the boy himself was not at his best. And she knew that. So when he saw him using a large sword and seeing that he was dominated by anger, it didn't take long to defeat him, leaving him on the ground. Everyone outside the barrier was worried, especially a certain Queen Citri who wanted to come in and help him. Issei instead closed his eyes, shaking his head, waiting for this result. A mind blinded by hatred is no help in a duel. Zenobia was going to go with her partner, but was surprised to see that she was knocked out at the foot of a tree. And more so when she saw the sword that at first she confused with a sacred blade, but none that she knew had color and was so thin. In his eyes that sword was beautiful. He wanted to know how powerful it was. What is that sword? It's something that someone important lent me, but I'll soon have my own. Well, there won't be a time for you, because that sword deserves to be in the hands of a devotee of God's justice, she said angrily, launching herself into the attack, hoping to make her disappear in one blow. And he struck it, raising a lot of dust, but his blow was stopped by the luminous green leaf. It's impossible. She couldn't believe it. Her Excalibur was destruction, and it shattered any sword that touched its blade. How was it that a simple sacred blade stopped her easily, and the worst thing was that it began to heat up to the point that if she continued pressing her blade it would melt. Asia broke the struggle and moved, attacking different points where the blue-haired girl was desperately trying to cover. Her speed could not keep up with those acrobatic movements, but just when she thought she was going to counterattack, she felt a terrible burning in her side. It was that Asia managed to give him a rub that thanks to that pain she was disarmed and had the luminous blade pointing at her neck. It was obvious that the winner was Asia. You're strong, but as a great teacher says you still have a lot to learn, you should give up. The blue-haired girl looked angrily. She had been defeated by the one who cured a demon, but also hurt several bishops in her condemnation at the stake. She was supposed to be ordered by her superiors to kill her or bring her back alive, so that justice would be done, but now she was humiliated. Wounded in his pride. The blonde healed her with her sacred gear and also with the force, leaving her in good condition, just as she healed Irina and Kiba, who was staring at the ground and clenching his fists. I think everything is more than clear here. Miss Corda Asia Argento exceeds your expectations regarding skill. I hope you understand. Did you show him what I witnessed? Are you a witch too? I am more than a wizard. I am someone you would find difficult to understand. Things calmed down when they were healed and left without saying a word out of shame at being defeated. But something was going to happen. Udo, I will not allow one of my servants to leave my entourage. Stop. The blonde did not listen and began to leave if he was not stopped by a power that was beginning to bring him to his knees. It was Issei who prevented him from leaving. Hiba, Rias-sama gave you an order. Don't get involved, Hyodo-kun, now let me go. I spoke to him angrily. This day was not good for him at all. I feel your anger, your emotions are clouding your judgment. You must appeal to reason before you do something you will regret. This doesn't matter to you. I'm going to complete my revenge. That statement before everyone's ears was bad, since the word revenge never brings anything good to someone's life. And even more so for Issei, since upon hearing that scream he felt in the night something that he didn't think he felt in him, and that was becoming corrupted. I had to act quickly. Rias-sama requested permission and total freedom to solve this problem, the brown-haired boy asked with a darkened look. Rias was not sure about such a request, but she trusted Issei completely, and more so in that tone in which he said it. He sensed that Kiba's life was in grave danger. So he allowed it. Granted. Rias. Sona couldn't believe what she had heard from her friend. Asia. The blonde approached the knight who was trying to free himself but could not handle an experienced force user. Asia looked with compassion and put a hand on Kiba's forehead, and then he, unable to do anything, fell unconscious to the ground. Tsubaki was going to help him, but a look from the brown-haired boy prevented that. It's better if you let me take care of him. I know you're worried, but I need you to stay out of it. She wanted to protest, she wanted to be by Kiba's side, she wanted to help him with whatever, because it hurt her to see him like that full of hate. She didn't know why, but she thought the chestnut could help better than her. "Do you promise me that you will help him?" she asked hopefully. He, like every Jedi, responded. "I promise you." She walked away and let it all happen, watching as both Force users took the blonde along with the droid. Nobody knew what was going to happen. The knight opened his eyes heavily. His vision was blurry, and as he tried to hold his head he felt he couldn't move his wrists. He was handcuffed at the wrists and hung with thick shackles, the chains of which went to a wall, as well as his legs which were tied in a lotus position. "I see you've already woken up." In front of him were Issei and Asia, who were in a meditation pose looking at him seriously. "What is this?" he asked, not liking his situation. "A few hours ago we felt in you something that we also felt in Rias-sama, but your desires for revenge are corrupting what you have, and that is the Force. At this rate you will fall to the dark side, and I will have to eliminate you if necessary. That is why you have to stay here while we help you." "I don't need help, I just want revenge for the death of my brothers. I want to take revenge on Excalibur." Asia felt again and was terrified how dark emotions managed to dominate the heart of someone like Kiba. Issei, on the other hand, was not intimidated after all, he had already faced someone who fell to the dark side. And it didn't end well at all. So he spoke to her. "Revenge is not the way of a Jedi. You once wanted to know and understand what I am, and how you could reach me. I offer you the opportunity to do so, but first I must purge your dark desires through the Force, remind you that you are not alone, and get it into your head that Tsubaki hopes you return safely." "What do you mean?" I asked, surprised. "Tsubaki-senpai loves you like crazy, and I'm going to tell you this way so you'll surely understand. She wants you to give her family, she wants to be happy by your side, she wants to live a lot of love and enjoy it, both of you." Kiba was surprised by those words, despite the strange way in which the blonde said it, smiling happily at seeing such displays of affection in others. She became a girl who enjoys the good times, whether her own or others. "I promised that I would help you, and that is what I am going to do. It is better that you do not resist, do not force me to have to kill you, since it only takes one reason for me to do it." "But you don't have the guts," she told him, challenging him. "Do you want to see it?" The knight, looking into his eyes, saw that there was no doubt in his gaze. It was the temperament of someone who did things that he was not proud of doing. In him he saw someone who was forged in a hard and severe way. "Well, if there's nothing else to say, let's get started. Asia, I'm going to need your help here. Remember the lessons of digging into mines." "Your mind is strong, Issei-san. It will take us longer than planned," he commented, knowing what he had to do. "What are you talking about?" he asked, with a certain fear in his words. "I know, but it's the only thing I can think of right now. Let's start." They both reached out to the blonde and closed their eyes to concentrate, while Kiba felt as if someone was entering his mind, so he tried to resist. All observed by R3, who transmitted everything by secret order of Rias, who wanted to know more about Issei and his secrets, as well as Sona, who is also curious about that power called the Force. And so began the difficult days for the Gremory Knight in order to prevent him from falling to the dark side. Meanwhile, in a place far away from the solar system, a man sitting on his throne looked at a certain place and then smiled. "There is a Jedi here in these regions far from the Empire. Yoda, why did you send him, my friend?" That man stroked his beard thoughtfully but still with his smile, knowing that things are about to change on the features. "Thanks to the Force." Fears. The fear of suffering is worse than the suffering itself. Things in Ku were strange. Issei along with Asia used the Force to at least try to prevent Kiba from falling to the dark side. Now the chestnut is trying to make the knight learn to meditate, which is an ideal exercise to calm the mind. As for Asia. "Do you want to help us?" She sought out the exorcists sent by the church to help them in their mission. He didn't know why, but he felt that it was the will of the Force that he did it, apart from the fact that he had seen the hate in the eyes of his entourage partner, and he doesn't like to see that look in any person he cares about. Especially in Issei and Rias. "Yes, I want to help them recover the Excalibur before something bad happens to everyone." "And why should we believe you?" Zenobia asked him distrustfully. "For two reasons. The first is that my ability, or as you call it, witch powers, could help them, and second, because they have no other option since they are facing Kakabiel, and that would be a death sentence." The exorcists didn't want to admit that the blonde was right. They had no chance against Kakabiel. So swallowing their pride, they accepted the help. "So what's your plan then?" Irina asked, agreeing. "Well, this is the plan." Kiba was now free from his bonds and resting as his head hurt from so much use of Force on him. "Now I was sitting in the living room planning how to proceed. He had to avenge his fallen brothers for that project that his superiors cruelly and despotically killed. Then he saw the droid come down with a box that had several things. Apparently he was cleaning the place. He had left the box on the table, and in it there was something that had caught the gentleman's attention. It was a blue cube. He didn't know why, but something inside him was calling him to the cube. That feeling was asking for something. So he unconsciously extended a hand to the cube and out of nowhere a mechanism was activated that opened it and the cube showed the hologram of someone. He was a man who looked like a human of African American race and a serious attitude. Greetings Padawan, if you have this holocron and were able to open it, then the Force has guided you to my teachings. I am Mace Windu, and I will teach you all my knowledge as the master that I was. For Kiba, like Asia, that moment would change his life forever. Days passed and things were going well. Kiba was locked up in the Hyoto residential. Issei kept up his duties teaching Rias. And Asia well. Let's just say I was with the exorcists in a somewhat hilarious situation. Since the three of them had a supposed exiled exorcist tied to a chair whom they were interrogating. But there was a problem. The guy spoke French. The blue-haired girl slapped him and spoke to him seriously. Speak Japanese, damn it. I'll tell you nothing. Zenobia, this doesn't help us at all. Well, if someone had paid attention to the French classes at church we wouldn't have this problem. You know I hate French. And German is a great language, isn't it? I ask him mockingly. Says the one who likes Norwegian the most, which is a stupid language. Don't you dare insult the Viking language. Both of you shut your mouths. They fell silent as they listened to the blonde who rubbed her temples at such a waste of time. Look, I'll be your interpreter since I speak fluent French, but no more discussions. She approached the exorcist. Where is Cacabiel? Les trois font une grave erreur, tres bientôt ils demanderont grace Putin. He says that we are condemned, that very soon we will ask for mercy. He also said that. What? Go on, say it. There are lives in danger, Zenobia told him. I use the word with M. What? Word with M? Well, tell this son of a hitch. No bad word, said the blonde angrily, making the two exorcists tremble. Zenobia better moderate, Irina told her somewhat fearfully. Well, I want you to tell this piece of M word that I will personally call it the F word. Monsieur, you will personally say the mod F. Avec fa, well, most of her is a garce who couch avec celui qui la paye. Did you say Zora? The blue-haired woman asked angrily, understanding that word with a little French she knows. Yes, but I think I insulted your mother. Well, tell him his is an H. Zenobia, prostitute doesn't start with H, but with P. Yes, and double, that her sister is a P, that her grandmother is a cheap P who charges double because she has no teeth, tell her all that. There is by force a that saucer is a P all like sa mirat sa grand mire. Eh bien, sa partner est une lesbienne prude qui pourrait facilement l'emmener. What did he say now? Asked the brunette. I think he called you something goddess says, and then he referred to you as a woman who likes women and is easy to get into bed. What Irina asked, knowing what he meant and angry. Du then pointed out. Well, tell him it's an LS. That confused Asia. Hey Irina, that part is written with a C, her classmate corrected her. I have a dictionary app on my cell phone if you like. Just tell him that she said, already embarrassed. Ils merent aux mains de mon maître comme les gens qu'ils sont. He says the Cacabiel will have no mercy on us. So yes, huh? You better turn around Argento because you don't want to see this. Tell me where Cacabiel is, tell me before I cut off your BS with a rusty knife and put them in your mouth. The PS? He asked without understanding. The BS Argento, round and hairy, tell me now P. Zenobia won't tell us anything, Irina told her. Well, I think he has no reason to do so. Give me the gun, Irina. The brunette sighed as she took out a chrome-colored 9mm caliber weapon from her things to give it to him. Very well, Jar Jar, tell me now, where is Cacabiel? Bro. What did he say? He said shoot. Okay. Suddenly a click was heard in the gun and the guy got scared because they were thinking of shooting him. Hey Irina, and the bullets. My mistake, I'm sorry, he said as he took the gun to put the charger in it. I'm trying to kill someone, my friend. Damn, she pulls the slide, putting the bullet in the chamber and aims at him. Very well, Napoleon, either you tell me what I want to know and in all the letters, or I'm going to blow your brains out and say that those aren't your brains. The blonde begins to recite a prayer in a language they did not know in a calm manner. I don't know if you're talking to Jesus, but if you are, tell him to reserve a place for you, he said, moving his finger to pull the trigger. Zenobia, wait, Irina tried to calm her down. Tell me something, he continued to insist, scaring the Frenchman even more. That's enough, she asked him, not wanting to kill him. Irina is almost there. Forgive me, Father, because I have sinned. Attention. Stop, he's going to talk. He's seen abandoned at the northeast of the city between the streets Nagata and Yonbi. What did he say? Irina asked. Abandoned factory in the northeast of the city between Nagata and Yonbi streets. That's great, and now what do we do with it? What to do? Zenobia was going to shoot, but Asia with the force took the gun away from her, looking at her seriously and disappointed. I'll take care of it. She approached the guy and putting a hand on his head, after a few seconds she knocked him out. I erased his memories and ordered him to live a better life. You were able to control minds. And why didn't you do it to get the information out of him without all the drama we made? They are bothered by my witch powers, so I only do it when the situation warrants it. Walking. Both girls looked at the Force user seriously and at the same time with some fear, wondering. How many powers will she have? Issei supervised Ria's training, which was to control meditation and fencing lessons. He had shown her 6 of the 7 forms of swordsmanship and she had chosen one that gave Issei the creeps. The Makashi. There was only one master of the second form who was also very powerful. Dooku. And let's just say his movements were very elegant and strong like Dooku himself. If he uses 2 lightsabers he would give Ventress a good fight. They stopped when he saw how the Redeed was getting tired. Let's finish for today, Arias-sama, you have to rest. But she refused to listen to the brown-haired boy and with her body already exhausted, she stood up and raised her guard with the shinai in her hands. I can still fight, let's continue. Rias-sama should not push yourself, rest, she said to turn around and go get some water. But instead of obeying, she launched herself with the shinai in her hands and attacked. Issei, who was not at all surprised by such an act, defended himself and disarmed her with a blow, causing the shinai to fall far away. Rias collapsed to her knees, breathing heavily, trying to get oxygen into her lungs, with Issei trying to calm her down. Rias-sama, that's why I told you to rest, you're not used to physical effort at this level. I must become stronger, he said, panting. I don't think what you want is worth it, my lady, he told her, trying to get her to give up her interest in the Force. Even if it's you? That had left the brown-haired boy in shock. That? You are the one I love, Issei, and I want you to stay by my side, that's why I strive to not only be by your side, but to fight by your side and win by your side, to be happy by your side. The chestnut couldn't believe what his mistress was telling him, and the truth is he didn't want to believe it. No matter how much I wanted, I shouldn't. The Jedi code was still ingrained in his psyche. Rias-sama, I think I shouldn't. Asia told me about the code. Issei was more surprised to know that. He forgot to forbid Asia about the secrets he has revealed to her. I know that you were forbidden that kind of affection, and I can't imagine such a thing, but just as Asia says, you no longer have to cling to customs and rules that limit you. You don't understand, Rias-sama, the Jedi code is the only thing I know. You and Asia don't understand that almost all my life since I can remember I have lived under that code. I can't. He turned his back so as not to look her in the eyes, wishing to return to what he knows. She didn't say anything, in fact she knows and understands how he feels. He knows that he still does not accept that what he knows has disappeared, he does not accept that those he has known have ceased to exist. He still keeps refusing. You carry a lot, Issei, but you can't carry that burden alone. You deny Asia her help, you have to accept it just like mine, you must let go of what makes you suffer. He did not answer her. Issei. It is best that Rias-sama rests, he said, and then left, leaving Rias very sad. I knew that reaching the heart of someone who is afraid of feelings would be difficult, but I didn't expect it to be this difficult. What I didn't know was that Issei isn't afraid of feelings because of the code. If not, why has he seen firsthand what feelings can do to a trained Jedi Knight? 1. And who could he hurt if he falls to the dark side? 2. I hate you. She closed her eyes and a treacherous tear ran down her cheek and fell to the ground. Master, forgive me. While in a remote system. Did Orden-sama call me? That's right, Ross, your training is almost over, the only thing you have to do is go to Jotunheim and get the missing piece. Orden-sama, I appreciate all the knowledge you have given me in this art, but if you allow me to ask a question. Forward. I was trained to help someone, but who? You will meet him and I assure you with my good eye that you will experience many things with him. I already want to meet Orden-sama, my destined one in the Force. And with that she left, preparing for her journey to the frozen planet of Jotunheim. While the god looked into nothingness, feeling the slight disturbance in the one who had come from a very, very far away place. You are afraid, brat, but if you cannot overcome that fear, the darkness will consume you and all those around you. I must move everything forward before the Empire manages to trace roots to here. He waved his hand and a golden cup floated into his hand, and he drank from it. That god was using the Force. I just hope the brat is ready for what's coming. The Didact must be ready to correct the chosen one. He kept staring into nothingness, hoping everything would turn out as expected. Special command. Din Djarin was trapped on the bridge of the Imperial destroyer alongside his allies and Moff Gideon. Grogu was unconscious, and the dead troopers were hitting the doors which were beginning to give way. The Imperial smiled evilly, knowing that he was going to win and that it was only a matter of time. The Mandalorians had no way out. But something happened. The ship passed through space from outside. A U-wing. A U-wing. Great, we're saved. Incoming ship, identify yourself. I'm trying to find out who was arriving at the Star Destroyer. The cameras showed the ship entering the landing port. But what none of those present saw was that Grogu woke up feeling a presence in the Force. A very familiar presence. The droids who were banging on the doors suddenly stopped to grab their blasters. Why did they stop? He asked. The cameras showed droids going on alert in different parts of the destroyer's corridors and rooms on the way to the command bridge. And in another camera you could see 11 people in black coats waving with each step, walking confidently. In another chamber, 6 droids were seen being cut by 2 subjects who had in their hands something that Bo-Katan immediately recognized. Lightsabers. They are Jedis. Gideon began to panic upon hearing those words, since every Imperial's worst fear is a Jedi. The traitors of the Empire. 4 of those Jedi saw 12 droids, one of which was short in stature, and took out 2 short white lightsabers that deflected shots with good speed and then cut them off from the head and pushed them with the force. 6 more droids came out and 2 Jedi wielding their blue lightsabers cut and deflected one aggressively and another defensively. In another room a Jedi using jumps and a green lightsaber cut the droids from head to toe. He saw 4 more, but a Jedi with a purple lightsaber with great mastery and aggression cut them down without any mercy. Elsewhere, 2 Jedi took out their lightsabers, but these were different since they were golden in color and in the shape of a cross. Those with the mastery of a noble fencer cut dancing elegantly. And at one point in the loading zone they were guided by cutting more droids with mastery, and they used a force either to throw them into the void or immobilize them to finish them off. Moff Gideon knew he could die at the hands of those traitors, so he immediately took a blaster and knocked out one of them with several shots. Seeing this, Mando knew that Grogu was next, so he launched himself and with his armor, he received the laser shots without them harming his son. Drop the gun. They were all aimed at the Imperial, and when he saw himself surrounded, he tried to kill himself so as not to fall into the hands of the Jedi, but he was stopped and knocked out. The Jedi continued to eliminate the droids, and one of them who had a blue lightsaber cut one or another, but went calmly. Through the camera screen Grogu put his small hand feeling the force in each of those mysterious Jedi, as if returning to those days when the light side was present in the galaxy. In which good was not just a children's story. 5 Jedi arrived at what was an elevator, 3 of which entered, while the remaining 2 stood guard waiting for the others. The droids formed up at the elevator entrance to greet the guests. These were moments of tension for Mando and his group, not knowing what was going to happen. The elevator kept going up and the tension kept rising. A few seconds passed until it stopped. What happened next? The door opened and a green lightsaber Jedi took care of the droids, while the other 2 left and deflected, leaving their third companion to do everything. The droids couldn't stop him no matter how much they shot or how much they attacked. The Jedi was unstoppable. He eliminated the second to last one by cutting it from the head down. And the last one using force crushed him like an aluminum can. With the corridor clear, the other Jedi arrived and one of them looked at the one who cleaned the corridor and then nodded as if to say well done. The 11 hooded men were already waiting at the dented door. Little Grogu pointed to the door as a sign of the following. Open the doors, said Din with Grogu in his hands. They looked at him as if their ally had grown another head. I said open the doors. Are you crazy? She asked cautiously. Then I pressed the button and the doors opened revealing those 11 people. They came in with their lightsabers to turn them off and put them away. Then each of them lifted the hood they had to reveal their faces, which surprised Mando and his allies. Except for one of them, the rest were no older than 20 human years. But Grogu, seeing a person with brown hair, was able to recognize him as small tears came out of his eyes. He was a very important friend to him. The Jedi who had the role of he did act in the prophecy. The Jedi Knight. Issei Hyodo. Hello Grogu, I see you've grown a little. The little boy wanted to go hug him, but he knew that his father did not trust him. Issei looked at the Mandalorian. As a master of the new Jedi Order, I give you my total gratitude for taking care of my little friend, Mr. Jaren. Now I must take him for his safety. He reached out his hand to the little one. Come on Grogu, we have to go. The little boy looked at his father. He doesn't want to go with you. He asks for your permission, as my teacher said it is for your safety, said that boy, Issei's apprentice. Luke Skywalker. The force is very strong in him, but without training, talent is useless. Issei's red-haired wife spoke. Rias Gremory. With our lives we will protect yours, you must learn the ways of the force. It was the second wife of the chestnut who spoke in a strange way. Asia Argento. Then the bounty hunter crouched down in front of his son and then picked him up and spoke to him. Go with them, you must go, they are yours, we will see each other again, I promise. The little boy touched his father's helmet with his little hand and he took it off with one hand, showing his face. Leaving the Jedi surprised because according to Issei, leader of the Order for the Mandalorians, the helmet is their sacred religion and taking it off must mean a great bond of love between Grogu and Jaren. An unbreakable bond. The little boy touched the man's face with his little hand, giving tenderness to the women present. You have to go now, my friend, don't be afraid. He left him on the ground and with pain he let the little one walk towards the Jedi and then saw how two astromech droids appeared which were R2 and R9 who, upon seeing the little one, moved with joy as they usually do. Then Issei carried him looking at him tenderly. "Your path in the Force is mysterious, we will help you discover it," he said while he cradled him and with a finger he touched his cheeks that the little one liked. Then Issei looked at Mando and his group and finally told them. "May the Force be with you." And with that he left along with the Jedi and the droids leaving Mando. And the bounty hunter hoped he had made the right decision in the hope of seeing his son again. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.